My wife and I bought that house for a price that could only be called ridiculous. An old but solid log house, an overgrown apple orchard, and nearly 3 acres of land included. All of it in a dying rural town where even the mobile grocery truck came only once a week. For us, burned-out city freelancers, it felt like paradise. The only thing that bothered us was the well. It stood right in the middle of the yard, built from moss-covered stone blocks, with a heavy oak windlass and a crooked, half-rotten roof. The realtor, hurriedly signing the paperwork, casually mentioned that no one had used the well's water in years, saying it was easier to drill a modern well instead. We didn't think much of it at the time. The first month was pure bliss. We were fixing up the house, breathing in the thick air scented with wild herbs and enjoying the silence. And then, one moonless night in August, I heard it for the first time. It was a quiet, broken sound, like someone sobbing. It came from the yard. I thought it was a bird or some small animal. But the sound repeated itself with a dull, depressing rhythm. A quiet sob, a pause, and then again. I went to the window. The yard was empty, and only the black opening of the well stood out against the grass wet with dew. The sound was coming from there. "Do you hear that?" Emily whispered from the darkness of the bedroom. She wasn't asleep either. "I hear it," I said. "It's probably just water moving down there, or the wind echoing through the logs." But I didn't believe my own words. The sound was too alive. It sounded like a woman crying, trying to do it as quietly as possible so no one would hear her grief. From that night on, it happened every single night. A soft, muffled crying rose from the darkness of the well. We stopped sleeping. During the day, everything felt normal. Sunlight, birds, work. But as soon as dusk settled in, a sticky, cold fear began to grow inside me. As I waited for the sound to return, Emily grew pale and tense. I tried to find a rational explanation. I lowered a flashlight down on a rope, inspected the stone walls, but found nothing that could possibly make that sound. After a couple of weeks, unable to take it anymore, I went to see our only neighbor, an old woman named Mrs. Harper, who lived at the far end of the road. She listened in silence, staring off to the side with faded, almost colorless eyes. "So, it's crying," she said calmly, without surprise. "That means it's awake and hungry." "What's awake?" I asked. "Mrs. Harper, what are you talking about?" "It's an old well," she said. "Our grandfathers dug it. It remembers a lot, especially women's tears. When a girl suffered because of unhappy love, she would come here and cry into it. And the well listened and listened and took her tears along with her sorrow. Sometimes," she paused, "sometimes it took the girl too." She crossed herself. "The last one was Lily, our local mail carrier. About 10 years ago, she went out to her plot of land and never came back. We searched and searched, vanished without a trace, like she sank into the ground." She looked straight at me. "Don't mess with it," she said quietly. "Don't wake up something evil." Her words only strengthened my resolve. We couldn't live like this. We couldn't sell the house after pouring all our savings into it. This had to end, once and for all. There was only one solution: drain the well, clean it down to the bottom and find out what was really there. We rented a powerful industrial water pump. On Saturday morning, I lowered the heavy hose into the black water, and the machine came to life with a dull, angry roar, spewing a muddy stream across the grass. The water drained slowly, ring by ring, The soaked stone walls revealed their dark, slick surface. Emily stood beside me, gripping my sleeve tightly. After 3 hours, the pump choked and spat out the last portion of filthy sludge. The water was gone. I grabbed a high-powered flashlight and shined it down. The bottom was covered with a thick layer of black silt, and from that silt, like monstrous underwater weeds, something else was growing. Long, tangled strands, a lot of them. Blonde, dark red-grey. They were intertwined, forming a solid, shifting carpet that covered the entire bottom of the well. They were human hair. There was so much of it that it felt as if, 10 meters below, lay the scalp of some unimaginable giant. My stomach turned. Emily screamed and staggered back. This wasn't just horrifying. It was impossible. Hair doesn't preserve like that in water. And where could so much of it come from? That same day, we called the authorities. A tired county sheriff arrived with 2 deputies. They stared down into the well for a long time, shaking their heads, and then called in the state rescue team. The rescuers tried to hook the mass with a grappling tool, but it only sank into it. They tried lowering one of their men down on a winch. He touched the surface with his boots and immediately screamed to be pulled back up. "It's alive," he shouted when they hauled him out. "It's warm, and it's moving." All work was halted until forensic investigators could arrive. And that night, real hell began. The crying stopped. Instead, a whisper came from the drained well, soft, coaxing, seeping up from the ground itself. And it was calling Emily, by name. We barricaded ourselves inside the house, but the whisper followed us in. It came from the kitchen sink, from the drain in the bathtub. Every pipe in the house was connected to the same underground vein. It was no longer crying. It was asking to be let in. I looked at my wife, frozen with terror, and realized that no police force could help us. I remembered Mrs. Harper's words. It takes the tears along with the sorrow. That thing, that well, didn't feed on flesh. It fed on grief. For decades, women had come to it, pouring out their pain, and it took their suffering, and them along with it, leaving behind only their hair, like a grotesque trophy. By draining it, we had taken away its food and awakened its hunger. And now it had found a new victim, my Emily. And then I knew what had to be done. It was a mad, desperate plan. "Emily, listen to me," I said, gripping her shoulders. "All our old photographs, the letters from your ex, the ones that made you suffer, my bankruptcy papers, everything that ever brought us pain, everything we regret, bring it all here." We gathered an entire box of artifacts from our past, unhappy lives, everything we had tried to leave behind by moving here. I carried it outside to the very edge of the well, from which it was no longer whispering, but nearly screaming my wife's name. I set the contents on fire. When the flames greedily took hold of the paper and cardboard, I tipped the box over. The burning heap fell into the black void. For a moment, it was bright down there, and I saw it. The hair began to move, rising like thousands of snakes reaching for the fire. A sigh came from the well, a sound like relief, like satisfaction. And then, silence. For the first time in weeks, absolute dead silence. The next day, I ordered a concrete truck. The workers glanced at me like I was insane as they filled the mouth of the well to the very top. We still live in that house. Where the well once stood, there is now a smooth grey circle where we place our lounge chairs in summer. The police closed the case, writing it off as a mass hallucination and an unexplained natural phenomenon. Life returned to normal. But I know it didn't die. It's just sleeping there, under tons of concrete. It's full. We gave it all of our past grief. But sometimes, when I walk barefoot across the yard, I feel the ground beneath my feet vibrating, faintly, deeply, as if, far below, a huge, satisfied heart is slowly pumping not blood, but other people's tears. And I understand that we can never leave this place. Never. Because now we are its guardians. And our main task is to never be unhappy again. Because if we weaken, it will wake up. And it will be very, very hungry.